Right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the February 6, 2024 Scott County Board of Commissioners meeting. Would you join me in saying the pledge, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The agenda has been posted and distributed. Are there any amendments to the agenda? Seeing none, it'll stand as distributed. Next on our agenda is the January 16th, 2024 minutes. They've been posted and distributed. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes?
Madam Chair, I'll move approval.
Thank you. There's been a motion and second to approve the January 16th minutes. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Next on the agenda is recognition of interested citizens. This is an opportunity on the agenda for anyone to come forward and speak to the county board about an issue, a question, a complaint, or even an affirmation. You're limited to 5 minutes or less on any topic that is not on the agenda. So if you're here to address the board, please come forward to the podium. And sir, if you could state your name and address for the record, that would be wonderful. Yep. Oh,
I don't think so.
oh, it's green now.
Okay. My name is Steve Axamet, and I'm from Prior Lake, although I'm a part owner in our family farm in west central Minnesota. The reason why I'm here is I'm to find out if you, the board, got a letter from Hunters for Hunters. And if you,
We did.
okay, in any case, I got prints if you want more. They wanted to know if you would go along with their delisting efforts on delisting the wolf. And where I'm coming from is I sat on our farm for 9 days. We're hunting, and I would normally see 15 to 20 deer at least, sometimes that many per day. This year, I sat there, I saw 2 deer in 9 days. And that's how I got involved with this. I did some research. I found out the wolves in Minnesota are devastating our deer herd, and our raccoon herd, and our elk herd, and the list goes on. So I got a membership in the Hunters for Hunters group, and they're going to all 87 counties in Minnesota, and they're trying to get the counties to go along with delisting the wolf, because our DNR is not doing their job in managing the wolf herd. It's just way out of hand. The deer are gone, okay? So along those lines, then, they wanted me to hand out a letter. Their plan is to go to Amy Klobuchar, our representative in Washington. Take it to the Washington people with the facts and figures. They've been posting videos daily, multiple postings daily all over, especially northern Minnesota, but I'm here pushing for west central Minnesota, where I come from. I saw it happen. It's happening. And it's coming down to the Minneapolis area right now. There's no deer. They're moving out. The wolves are killing it out, and the herd has gone beyond the population maintenance level that the federal people want to hold it. We have like 3,700 at least in Minnesota. And they said there's no management. The DNR claims they're managing, but the videos and everything show no, they're not. So that's why we're here, okay?
Well, yeah, and thank you for coming. Thank you for this information. We did get it, and I think we all find this very interesting and are following it in different ways on our own. But I think we did send a response back that we have a policy that we don't do a resolution on any topic that isn't within our purview. And we do that because there's so many different resolutions that can come in front of us.
Sure,
So
absolutely,
we do thank you for this. We appreciate you coming and sharing it. but we're not going to take this up as a
Madam,
resolution.
can we take a
Yes.
few questions, or?
Usually we don't,
I
but
know,
yes,
I
if you
know.
have a question,
'Cause I see
Commissioner Wolf, you
Commissioner
go
Olive
ahead.
has one.
I think,
I
yep,
just
I
wonder-
think we have time. This is a
Because
full day anyways.
I'm just wondering about you, but, no, the wolf population, no, I'm okay with the wolf population, anyhow. My name's Tom Wolf, just, anyhow. Is it a good or bad thing, when they, it's kind of like when they reintroduced the wolves out in Yellowstone, all of a sudden things went good again. I don't know,
Sure. And I think the Hunters for Hunters group is for managing the population, not getting rid of it.
and you said there's 3,700
Well,
wolves
that's
out?
what they're saying out there. There's at least 3,700 in Minnesota. When the federal guideline was 1,200 for Minnesota way back when.
Okay,
But each year they're raising it. They aren't maintaining it.
and are they coming closer to the cities here? that
Boy,
you're
absolutely.
saying?
Just north of the cities now, they're posting videos. If you don't believe me, go out on Facebook to the Hunters for Hunters
Okay,
group, and you'll see postings almost every day.
okay.
So one last thought, though. It's not just the hunting that I'm here for. It's all of the businesses that are associated with it, like the hunting clothes or the lodging for the hunters or the people that have pets that are being killed by the wolves. So go out and visit the site. You'll see what I'm talking about. Okay?
Yep, thank you. I think we might have one more question or comment, sir.
Well, just a comment. Thank you for bringing this to our attention. I've been wondering, and I'm up in northern Minnesota probably almost once a week near the
Okay.
Grand Rapids area.
Sure.
And I've been commenting, where are the deer?
Yeah.
I'll have to look into this myself,
Absolutely.
but I've been just wondering. I had no idea.
Yeah, I think it was Grand Rapids or else Bemidji that, not last week, but the week before, they had some lady with a cattle ranch, and they just came in and devastated a bunch of calves up there. Someplace out there. That was posted on there too, so don't take my word for it. Go visit the sites and see what's happening.
Yeah,
So, and
thank you for coming. And did you sign in, sir?
yes, I did.
Wonderful.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Any other interested citizens who would like to address the board? All right, well, thank you. It was good to have one today, so we appreciate you coming.
Thanks for listening.
Next up is,
Commissioner,
oh, yes,
I
sir.
did want to
Yes,
mention
ma'am.
that Mr. Pouts did come here. He gave me a handout to provide all 5 of you from the DNR instead of coming up during the 5 minutes. So you each have that in front of you.
Wonderful. Thank you for entering that on the record. All right, we'll move on to new employee welcome. Commissioner Beer and I had the pleasure this morning of meeting with employees who've joined Scott County in the last days, weeks, and months, and we're really happy that they've joined our team here. And I guess at this point, I'd like to ask all the new employees to come on up and introduce themselves to the board, tell us where you work in Scott County and what brought you here. So if you want to all come up to the podium, we'll move through that process. Somebody has to go first, sorry. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Jared Lenke. I'm working in adult field probation with a traditional caseload. I came to Scott County because I've worked in the Juvenile Service Center in a secure facility in Dakota County for a long time, and I have a passion for making our community safer and doing that through helping individuals change and become people and live lives that they want to live.
Well, thank you.
Good morning. My name is Tawana Turk. I've worked for Scott County since October of 2022. I started my journey at the Juvenile Alternative Facility here in Jordan. Prior to that, I was at Dakota County at the Juvenile Service Center working in the secure unit. I'm now in field probation for adults. Molly also always talks about like why we want to do this work and the why. And I also just feel like it's my passion to help people and get them on the right track and support their growth and just be able to support their change. So that is why I do it. Thank you.
Wonderful, welcome.
Good morning. My name is Samantha Hammond. I am the treatment court probation officer. I came from Carver County Child Protection, and I too enjoy helping people, and that's why I'm here.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Laura Stang. I am the Vets Court PO and the Specialty Court Coordinator. I came from Lake Seward County. I was there for 5 years. I just enjoy, well, for the probation side of things, helping people and also helping them in their sobriety.
Great, thank you.
Hello, I'm Derek Jackson, the Field Services Manager for Community Corrections. I work under Director Molly Bruner. I worked in Ramsey County for the last 21 years. Scott County was the first county I applied to when I moved here in 2001-ish. Years later, and here I'm back. I enjoy working in this county because working in a larger county, the departments are so siloed. You may not see other directors or the workers there, and here everybody's in the same building, and you can walk across the hall, and everybody works together and meets together. So that's an environment that I've enjoyed working in. So
Great,
thank you.
Thank you, Derek.
Good morning. I'm Stephanie Bulow, and I'm with Corrections as well. I'm one of the new positions, the Evidence-Based Coordinator position under Molly Bruner. I also was in Ramsey County for the last 22 years and came over here as this new position is evolving. I like to be part of implementation and how it starts and how it is done correctly for the clients and community we serve. And being somewhere, as Derek has mentioned, that's smaller, so you're in the room with everybody that's part of those decisions is really appealing to me. So I'm really excited to be here. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Welcome.
Hi, good morning. My name is Alexis Nasby. I actually have been with the county since 2019. I was a corrections officer over at the jail from 2019 to 2022. I then went to Health and Human Services, working with clients on public assistance, more so medical assistance for 2022 to January 22nd. I am now a probation officer. I'm actually the jail reentry probation officer, just providing resources to get the clients back into the community, maintain sobriety. And I really enjoy working with Scott County. Been here since 2019. And I just love the smaller counties as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kristen May. I'm going to be working in Health and Human Services as an estate recovery associate. I went to school for paralegal. Went to Colorado for a couple of years, worked for the county attorney in Arapahoe County, came back, did the public sector for a while doing collections, and now I'm back in the county. Super excited to be here. I loved working in government in Colorado, so super excited to be back.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Marcia Barceletta O'Neill. I am the new Community Outreach Officer. Prior to this, I worked in a private firm providing communications and engagement services to MnDOT, Metro Transit, and some other counties. I have a great passion for helping people and providing the services that they need, and not only creating and providing the services that they need, but making them totally accessible for them for all of the communities that are in the county. And I'm excited that my teammates are here, Jake and Erin. And yeah, nice
Thank
to meet
you. Welcome.
Morning, everyone. My name is Jesse Larka. I'm one of the new project managers downstairs in the IT department. I've been with the county for 3 amazing weeks. I've been drawn to service for most of my life. I spent 12 years in the service in the Marine Corps, and now I have the opportunity to work for the county and the community in which I live. So the opportunity to work here is amazing to me, just because I can help the people that I actually live with and see on a daily basis.
Good. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Good morning. My name is Trisha Nelson. I'm a therapist here at the Mental Health Center. This is my 3rd week. Before this, I did nonprofit, for-profit work, and I just have a passion for community, so wanted to be part of a bigger community.
Wonderful.
Good morning. My name is Ann Call. I'm an assistant Scott County attorney. I've spent most of my career in city government, and I was just anxious to see how the next level of government works. I started January 2nd. It's been a great year, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. Let's give these new employees a hand and a welcome. We are really excited for you to be here. The employees of Scott County really do the work. You know, we're here to talk about policy and budget, but you do the real work with the people, change lives and even save lives. So thank you for choosing public service. I just want to comment, today's group was a bit larger than usual, but it's we're seeing the efforts from or the results of the increased state funding for community supervision, and we're seeing those new positions that we approved after that additional money coming from the state, and I think a emphasis on helping folks when they're on probation after they leave jail, making sure that they don't go back. You know, that's really our goal, that they find a different path and can find the things they need to make their life successful. So just wanted to give a little bit of attention to that, especially to any of our thousands of viewers online wondering why we have so many employees at once. We didn't lose a lot. We have a new group coming in, especially for that purpose with that funding. So thank you, welcome. Any comments from the rest of the board? All right. Well, thanks. And as we said, feel free to stay for the rest of the meeting, but we understand if you have to go also. Moving on to agenda item number 6, which is to conduct a public hearing for the purpose of receiving public comment on the proposed enactment of Scott County Ordinance 35, Scott County Housing Trust Fund. 35? Yes, there we go. I better put on my glasses. And Barb Dahl will lead us off. Do we have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to open the public hearing. I don't think there's discussion on that one. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. The public hearing is open.
Told Julie that there was a technical failure on this. I would do that for her, so it would be smooth sailing from here. Good morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners. This next agenda item is for the purposes of establishing a Scott County Housing Trust. Scott County has long invested in supporting housing solutions to ensure that Scott County residents have a variety of housing options. Scott County's current strategic plan even calls that out with saying that partners will come together to support expanded housing resources. And this past year, in 2023, we really had the opportunity to dive into that objective in a little bit further detail through 4 different county board workshops. And really knowing that last legislative session really put housing center stage. And I think through those workshops, we really were able to prioritize our involvement in where we wanted to fall within the housing continuum and how we wanted to prioritize some of that funding. This ultimately led us to 3 different focus areas that included transitional and supportive housing, housing access, and prevention. At the end of the 2023 legislative session, we also saw the establishment of 2 new housing aid programs. The first is called the Statewide Affordable Housing Aid. We received our first payment at the end of last year. It was for roughly $211,000. We'll receive that same allocation again this year in 2024, and then that will decrease in further out years. That really was appropriated to cities outside of the 7-county metro, counties, and tribal nations with the purpose to develop and preserve housing and keep families from losing housing. The second funding aid that came through is the Local Affordable Housing Aid. And this is separate funding that is funded through the metro-wide sales tax. This is estimated to be about $3.6 million for Scott County. This goes to the 7-county metro area and for cities that have populations over 10,000. So this really leads us to an opportunity to establish a housing trust fund where we can deposit some of those investments that have come to the county. This will be maintained and administered through the Scott County Community Development Agency on behalf of Scott County. And once this is in place, the county and the CDA will look to enter into agreement that will kind of outline the specific parameters and expectations of that funding. Any city that chooses to participate within the county will also enter into similar agreements with the CDA. In your board packet, you will see that we have letters of support from Shakopee, Credit River, Jordan, Savage, and Prior Lake for this. Procedurally, today we are looking to have this hearing as an opportunity for the public to provide comment on this. Following this, the CDA will take this ordinance to their board to have a conversation and look for additional edits or feedback. Then we look to bring this topic back to this board on February 20th, where we would look for adoption of this ordinance. We have Julie here today, Julie Seeger from the CDA, and she will walk us through a little bit more of the specifics regarding that.
Thank you. Welcome, Julie.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners, and good morning, and thank you, Barb. I wanted to just provide some background information on what a local housing trust fund is for the public, and as a reminder for you folks as well. So it is required to be established by a local elected body, which is why it's coming before you, and it provides a tool to address local housing needs in the community. So just as the local needs of a community can vary and differ, the Housing Trust Fund can also be responsive to that as well. So it can support housing activities related to rental housing, to homeownership, different building new housing, rehabbing existing housing. So it really does provide a lot of flexibility in terms of addressing those local needs. The benefits, in addition to being flexible, also provides a dedicated funding source for addressing housing in a community. It also supports long-term planning for housing developments, as they can certainly vary in cost and can take some time to put together. It also can leverage additional private investment, which I think is really a strength of a housing trust fund. By putting a little bit of public revenue in and combining that with private resources, we can certainly provide some additional developments there and allow our public resources to go further. And then I think it also elevates housing as a local priority, just as the county board has this as a priority within your strategic goals. It elevates this across the community. So in terms of establishing a local housing trust fund, the Minnesota statutes really lay out how to do that. You have to adopt a local ordinance, which we'd come back to you in February, identify the funding sources, and identify an administrator as well. In terms of funding sources, there are not only public revenues that could go in here, but there could also be private donations that could be contributed from nonprofits, from employers, different state or federal sources as well, and then of course the local housing aid that Barb mentioned earlier. So why now? As Barb mentioned, the 2023 legislative session allocated some one-time appropriations for local housing trust fund matching grants. In order to be eligible for those grant funds, you need to have a housing trust fund established. In addition to that, the housing aid that was approved by the legislature is also, by establishing this, we ensure that our community is prepared to receive those funds and that we can utilize those funds in our community in the timing that makes sense for us. So happy to answer any questions. Barb as well, answer any questions.
Commissioner Albrecht.
Just a couple questions. First, a comment. In this category of housing, I think I and the board in some of the funding we've gotten from ARPA and others have wanted to see uses of dollars that have legs. In other words, that we could say in 10 years from now, that's what that funded and it's still going today. It's still meeting a housing need, or it's still meeting whatever kind of need category it was in, that it would have an ongoing impact. In this case, I would say have an ongoing impact in providing housing opportunities. I do have a sort of maybe it's a cynical view of rental assistance that sometimes it feels to me like an unquenchable fire, that if we keep, I know that that's a legitimate need and a legitimate use of dollars, yet I guess I would like to see this fund be more in the category of having legs, that it would be something we could point to over time and say, here's how these dollars are providing long-term housing opportunities, housing availability for people in need, rather than using it up in a way that once you give it, it's gone. So with that in mind, I guess I'm wondering, once we establish this, what kind of reporting or storytelling how will we know how you're using the dollars and how going forward?
Sure, Madam Chair and Commissioners. So the ordinance provides the greatest amount of flexibility in terms of projects. So once we establish the agreement between the county and the CDA for how you would like to see your funds utilized, not doing rental assistance as a priority and to be able to accomplish things that have legs is certainly something that can be outlined in that separate agreement for those funds. In terms of the reporting, I think that the ordinance calls out at the end of the fiscal year, within 60 days, we will come back to you and provide you with a report of how we're utilizing the funds, the number of units that were assisted, the incomes of folks that received that assistance, and if I recall, if there's anything else. But it does specify, let's see. I think those were the big categories. Number of assistants, yes. And the location of where they were assisted as well.
Okay.
Yep.
Commissioner O'Rourke, do you have other
No,
comments,
thank you.
questions? I just would have one reaction. I agree with you, Commissioner, about we want legs and buildings and units. But I think, at least from my chair and some of our discussion, we also would rather prevent homelessness than have to have shelters and deal with it that way. So I think we need a good balance. So I just wanted to respond in that way to say that I think we do need to be careful and we want to be involved, yet we're very grateful for your agency taking on the administration. But I think there's a couple different goals there that we need to always consider. Administrator Vermillion, you had a comment.
Madam Chair, and when we went through all of the strategic planning and you put together your housing plan, those were, if you go back to the beginning, the 3 areas. And the highest priority was the creating of stock for that workforce housing, which we are trying to do through several ways here and working with the CDA. But to your point, I think there's always going to be, and they are working hard now to look upfront and preventing versus having to mediate after people are evicted. And Barb had put some of those dollars together, and it was a smaller amount of money going to the prevention, and most of it was going to stock creation. So I think we've kind of hit that balance of what you're looking for.
Wonderful. Other comments? Commissioner Brennan.
In the resolution or the ordinance draft, it states that there's a advisory board that's going to be put together. How are you going to do that? I know you, in the ordinance it lists who will be included, but how will you get the community to be involved in that? And who will be, I guess that's how it is.
Sure. Madam Chair and Commissioners, so the advisory board, it will be co-chaired by Barb and I, according to the ordinance. And I think the Scale Housing Committee provides a good opportunity to start and be able to get some of that community input. I also think that within the CDA's existing work, we also have people with lived experience that are participants on our programs that have, we are required to have a resident advisory board ourselves, and so being able to draw in from those folks as well. Across the Heading Home group, I know that's also an opportunity where there's input from people from lived experience. So I think that there are existing groups that are across the county, but then I think there's also will be opportunities to do outreach for others who want to be involved as well. I don't know if you have anything you want to add.
Yeah, no, I would agree that I think the existing groups are a good place to take from, but I think if people have interest, if they hear this, if as the more this gets talked about within the community and there's interest, we welcome people to be a part of this.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
I don't think so. I look forward to seeing this come back to us and I'm really grateful that the cities are supporting it, and can't wait to hear the conversation at the CDA on it. So thank you very much for coming today.
Commissioner Beer.
Thank you very much. Can you remind me again, the SAHA, LAHA, what the different percentage that go into that particular bucket? I know we love our acronyms, and I just forget which one goes with which one.
Yeah, so the SAHA, the statewide affordable housing, that's the $211,000 that we will receive annually over the next 2 years, and then it does decrease. I think it cuts in about half next year and the years after. And then we receive, we're estimated to receive about $3.6 million from the local affordable housing aid.
Is that the 0.75 or the point?
That's the 0.25% sales tax, yep.
So that's coming to the county, and so, you know, part of the question is, I mean, we all have these sorts of these same thoughts. The great news, we have a really good relationship with CDA, and so a lot of how some of these strategies and how we do want to have these long-standing solutions versus just something that's here and gone, we have that relationship, so that's helpful. I think that is all that I had on that. The cities, this will help give them that mechanism as well to use that money over 10,000 are going to be able to get, so we can have it kind of all going in the same direction. I guess my last thought would be that to make sure that we do open up these advisory committees to a broader audience to make sure. I know we have our spots already, but to make sure we're getting all of the different viewpoints would be helpful.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Beer, each one of the cities will have an agreement with the CDA and provide direction. So if we go back to some of the studies and the work we've done, some of them might choose to invest in new stock. Some of them might choose to invest in renewing older stock. So we will have an agreement with the CDA. You'll be able to provide direction in partnership with them, as well as Shakopee, Prior Lake, and Savage.
Any other comments, or this is a public hearing, so if you'd like to speak to this matter, please come up to the podium.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to close the public hearing. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much. I look forward to seeing this ordinance come back and think it's great that we can work together to do this work. All right, moving on to item 7 on the agenda, which is the consent agenda. These items, if not removed, will pass in one motion. They're items that have been previously workshopped, presented on, or are just standard items. So I will read the consent agenda for your consideration. Item 7.1, to adopt resolution number 2024-19, authorizing entering into an intergovernmental agreement with the Shakopee Mdewakanton Sioux community and the city of Shakopee for the County Highway 83 and Valley View Drive Tintachanku traffic signal project. 7.2, adopt resolution number 2024-27, approving an amendment to the Scott County zoning ordinance number 3, chapter 6. 7.3, adopt resolution number 2024-33, authorizing entering into a grant agreement with the Minnesota Department of Health for the Response Sustainability Grant. 7.4, adopt resolution number 2024-34, authorizing entering an amendment and work order 6 to the master agreement with WSB and Associates Incorporated for the Trunk Highway 169 projects. 7.5, adopt resolution number 2024-35, authorizing entering a second amendment to attachment number 4 with WSB and Associates Incorporated for the Cleary Lake Regional Park Campground Compliance Project. 7.6, adopt resolution number 2024-39, authorizing entering into a relocation agreement with Xcel Energy Incorporated for the Trunk Highway 169 and Bluff Drive Overpass Project. 7.7, adopt resolution number 2024-40, authorizing entering a master agreement and attachment 1 with FR Secure LLC. 7.8, adopt resolution number 2024-41, authorizing transfer of properties within Murphy-Hanaran Park Reserve to the Three Rivers Park District. 7.9, adopt resolution number 2024-42, authorizing submittal of county regional trail long-range plans to the Metropolitan Council for addition to the Regional Parks Policy Plan. 7.10, adopt resolution number 2024-43, authorizing entering into a joint powers agreement with Carver County for the Merriam Junction Trail Project. 7.11, adopt resolution number 2024-44, authorizing entering a second amendment to the Damon Farber Associates Incorporated agreement for Spring Lake Regional Park. 7.12, adopt resolution number 2024-45, approving a solid waste license amendment and setting the license fee for the Demcon Landfill LLC expansion. 7.13, adopt resolution number 2024-46, authorizing entering a third amendment to the SRF Consulting Group Incorporated agreement for the Merriam Junction Regional Trail. 7.14, adopt resolution number 2024-49, authorizing application for, and if awarded, acceptance of a safe drinking and private well user grant. 7.15, approve the 1-day to 4-day temporary on-sale liquor license for the Jordan Lions Club in Spring Lake Township. 7.16, approve the renewal applications for 3.2% malt liquor licenses for the parish of Saints Joachim and Ann in Louisville Township and St. Patrick's Church in Cedar Lake Township for 2024. And 7.17, to approve payroll processing of personal actions. These are the 17 items on consent. Are there any items that you would like pulled from the consent agenda?
I'll second, but I would also like to make a comment.
Certainly.
On 7.1, which is resolution number 2024-19. It's the signal at the County Road 83 and Valley View Drive, and that was always an area of concern as a former member of the city council when we were approving development in that area. So I think the partnership with the city of Shakopee and the SMSC is going to be great to improve that the flow of traffic in that area and safety. So thank you for those partnerships.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, we'll proceed to the vote. All in favor of the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much. All right, next up, we are to item number 8, 8.1 in our agenda, which is to adopt resolution number 2024-28, approving an amendment to the 2024 Scott County Legislative Platform. Welcome, Perry Mulcrone.
Opportunity to present to you this morning on the updated 2024 legislative platform. My name is Perry Mulcrone. I am the Legislative and Fiber Programs Manager. So this morning, staff has a couple of recommended updates to the 2024 legislative platform that this board approved on December 19th of last year. This morning, I will recap briefly our existing legislative priorities, and then I will cover the changes that we made. A couple graphs that we made updated on the bed prioritization priority, as well as the recommended additional capital investment request. So as you can see in front of you in your packet is our top priorities to support legislation to address the bed prioritization issue and develop Minnesota's mental health continuum of care so that it appropriately serves high need and hard to serve individuals. Support legislation that addresses children's mental health continuum of care. Support legislation that addresses chronic absenteeism for our school children. Support legislation that transportation, greenhouse gas emissions, and vehicle miles traveled impacts on a statewide programmatic level that considers differences in mitigation opportunities throughout the state. Additionally, we request that the implementation deadline be extended until effective evaluation tools can be developed and tested. And we request exempting safety products from the greenhouse gas and variable miles traveled assessment. We support legislation that addresses the current tax forfeiture law statute regarding net proceeds from sales of delinquent properties ruled unconstitutional by the Minnesota Supreme Court that also holds counties harmless for previous sales. We request capital investment of $7.3 million for design and construction of the Louisville segment of the Merriam Junction Trail. And staff recommends the last one, which is request a capital investment of $8 million for the second phase of the joint Scott and Dakota Counties Household Hazardous Waste Facility Project for facility construction. So before I move on to covering why staff recommends that additional priority, I'm going to go over these additional graphs that we added. So we updated in bed prioritization priority that I know we've discussed at board workshops and stuff. I just want to call attention that the top two graphs in the right corner, we brought the data up to through 2023 year to date. So those graphs are now accurate through the end of 2023. And then in the lower right corner, regarding mental health crisis assessments completed in Scott County Jail, we had a paragraph in there that kind of described, and we felt that a graph would be more telling of the significant increase in those assessments in the past 5 years. They have more than doubled in 5 years. So with that, I'm going to jump down to the additional priority. Oh. Or not.
It's why we can't send children anywhere. I mean, we wish we didn't have to.
There we go. I jumped too far. So staff recommends the capital investment priority for $8 million towards the Scott County, Dakota County Household Hazardous Waste Facility construction in Lakeville. Scott and Dakota counties have a combined 593,000 residents, more than 10% of the state population, and we have 5 active landfills. Each county operates a residential household hazardous waste and recycling facility that collects sites through and makes sure that materials don't end up in landfills and in our environment. The 2 counties' existing facilities accept nearly 7 million pounds of material each year from more than 80,000 users. This is a Dakota County priority as well, and Dakota is already accepting 4 times its capacity at its existing facility. Similarly, Scott County is projected to exceed its capacity by 325% by 2030. The 2 facilities are not designed to handle the expected continued population growth. The large geographical area of the 2 counties includes underserved areas. Materials from residents living outside the 2 counties can also be collected at this new joint facility. You can see the funding there on the page. We're requesting $8 million in capital investment bonding funds. We were previously a $2 million state funding. There's the matching funds, as Dakota has $10.36 million, and Scott County is contributing $3.64 million for a total construction cost of $24 million. Madam Chair and Commissioners, that completes my presentation. I stand for any questions.
Thank you. Colleagues, questions or comments?
Can I just, Perry, so you said the other 5 counties can go use this, and it says that, can other counties, like somebody from Rice County coming up on, could they?
Madam Chair, Commissioner, I believe it's the 5, the 7 county metro. I don't know if like outstate can or not, but I can find out that answer and get back to you.
Kate's right here. She can come and speak to that. Because I believe we have that issue happen often in Spring Lake at our facility there with LeSueur and Rice, so
Madam
let's hear
Chair, I'm
about
sorry, I
that.
didn't quite hear
Oh,
the question outside.
Can other counties use this other than the 7 county metro folks? Could somebody from Rice County hop along that new one in Lakeville?
So the 7 metro counties, we have a reciprocal group for the 7 metro, and then we would have to do separate reciprocal use agreements with anyone outside. So right now, Scott County has a use agreement with Sibley County and LeSueur County. So when we do this partnership Scott and Dakota would have to consider if we want to do a use agreement with someone outside of the 7 Metro.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other comments or questions? Thank you, Perry. I know both Commissioner Wolf and I had spoken to some colleagues in Dakota County who really wished for us all to consider adding this to one of our priorities. So thank you for getting that together. Anything else, or we have a motion, proposed resolution in front of us.
Madam Chair, I will make a motion to adopt resolution number 2024-28, approving an amendment to the 2024 Scott County Legislative Platform.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve, or to adopt resolution number 2024-28. Any further discussion? I would just say thank you, Perry, for that work. Thank you for the updates on this. I think we all need to become even more intimately familiar with these pages and handouts for the next couple of months of work that we're doing with the legislature.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioners, have a great morning.
All right, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. All right, our friends from Metropolitan Mosquito Control District are still en route from their presentation to Carver County, so we will come back to that agenda item in a moment. We'll proceed to committee reports and commissioner updates. So Commissioner Wolf, could you get us started?
Yep, thank you, Madam Chair. On the 16th, the Vermilion River Joint Powers Organization had an open house for some planning situations out there. Later that evening, I went to City Council meeting in Lakeville to talk. They were on their agenda was the household hazardous waste that we just talked about, and they voted to approve that building of that. On the 17th, the insurance committee met. Everything's going good there. On the 22nd, the WMO Watershed Management had their monthly meeting. That went all right. Met with the administrator on the 23rd. Mosquito control on the 24th. That was a executive committee. I was filling in for Commissioner Beer, and a couple things going on there, but more importantly, our new administrator started, and I'm hoping that he comes and is here today. So we'll see if that happens. On the 25th, the Vermilion River Joint Powers Organization had their monthly meeting. We're going to have a lengthy planning session here coming up next month to see where we want to go with the river and some new projects. That evening, Elko New Market had one of their twice monthly meetings, a very short meeting. On the 26th, Commissioner Brennan and I actually, she took me on a tour of Shakopee and some of the new happenings there, and very nice. I hadn't been to some of the areas, and boy, there's a lot of building going on in Shakopee these days, so that's a good thing. Then they had the tribal council, and their three chair, vice chair, and secretary treasurer got sworn in on the 31st, and I think I'm sure all five of us were there. On the first, Stand Creek Township met, and they had the biggest issue there was there's a guy who died and had his estate, and somebody was going to sell the land or something, I don't know, but there's a road that serves 8 or 10 or 12 people out there on Xanadu Avenue, I believe, and the road is actually owned by somebody. So it's not public land, so people are driving on someone else's property, and so they want to get that cured up somehow or another. So anyhow, then yesterday, Credit River had one of their twice monthly meetings, and the issue there is they have a little bit of growing pains. They're starting to hire people, and they're starting to put together different how they're going to pay people and steps and cost of livings and all that stuff. Cedar Lake Township had their monthly meeting, and the only thing going on out there, well, the biggest thing is they'd like to get an agreement between them and Newmarket Township on the roads that are common to their borders, and I'm hoping that happens tonight because it's been 2 or 3 years. So anyhow, Madam Chair, that is my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Wolf. And so you're saying Cedar Lake is now engaging in that road agreement also?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Wonderful.
Yep.
Wonderful. Thank you.
So,
Commissioner Brennan.
Thank you. I have a long one, so apologize. January 16th, I attended the Spirit of Scott reception. January 17th was the Scott County Historical Society. We were in closed session to discuss the land ownership. January 17th was the Lower Minnesota Rivershed District. January 18th was the SHAC presentation on affordable housing. January 18th also was the Library Advisory Board, and the board the board has agreed to new hours for the library. Those are effective on March 4th. And also the board and staff are starting a discussion on the 21st century library planning and community engagement. And Aaron Lewis will be facilitating that discussion for us. January 19th was the Dakota Scott Workforce Development Board meeting. And I thought it was very interesting. The presentation was on registered apprenticeships. In Shakopee, the Southwest Metro School District is putting together a registered apprenticeship program for paraprofessionals to become licensed special education teachers. Because the special education teachers, number of those are very limited. So I thought that was great. We also watched a presentation on virtual reality apprenticeship programs. January 19th, I had a meeting with Leslie Vermillion, and we talked about the RTF. January 25th was the Shakopee Chamber of Commerce annual meeting, and I want to congratulate the new chair for being appointed to that. And I forgot his name right now. He's from the Canterbury, Randy Deemer. Let's see, January 25th, I went on home visits with public health nurses. I went to two homes. It was very interesting how those public health nurses work with those families to keep them on their goals and objectives, but also listening to issues that are coming up in their lives. And I also saw that one woman doesn't speak English, so I watched the translation relay that went back and forth, and how much longer it took to address the issues with her and her family. I thought it was very interesting, and I really want to thank those public health nurses for taking me along. January 29th was the MELSA board meeting, and we went into closed session to discuss what we want for a new executive director. January 31st, I had a meeting with Patty Freeman on parks. January 31st, I attended the SMSC Business Council inauguration. Congratulations to them. February 1st was the Scott County Transportation Committee. Also on February 1st, I traveled down to Winona for the MICA meeting. February 2nd, I had a meeting with Jen Schultz to talk about MELSA. And February 5th, I toured Canterbury Development with Commissioner Beer and saw some really interesting things. So I'll let him talk about that. That's all I have today.
Cool. Thank you very much. Commissioner Beer.
What a perfect segue. It's almost like it was orchestrated. On the 16th, post-board workshop. 17th was the annual, I think they call it the annual meeting for the Transformation House. If you remember, we have a committee, Citizen Advisory Committee, for that. And this was their annual public meeting that was held at the pavilion at Lakefront Park. And I don't know how many people, 25 or so. It was just good to continue that open dialogue with the public, because I think there's four from the neighborhood that are on the committee, and then City and Molly, of course. But towards the end of the meeting, because there's still questions, of course, makes sense. Damascus Way was there and did a great presentation of what's going on there. Some of the questions towards the end of the meeting, and just happened that way were from folks that lived in that neighborhood and saying, how can we come alongside this, and what can we do to help? So I think that was just and I'm saying, not everyone.
That was our hope, yep.
I want to make sure I'm not conveying, that wasn't everyone's position, but that was a noteworthy spot just based on where we've been and hopefully where we're going to go. So that was nice. On the 22nd, Scale Service Delivery, New Prague hosted. Thank you for that. So that was a good conversation, as it always is. Although I shouldn't say that because that was my first time being there, but I always hear about Scale Service Delivery. It was on my calendar, and I'm like, you know what? This year I was appointed to that, so I wanted to get involved with that. So a lot of things going on, of course. On the 22nd, also must have been later that day, the Scott County Community Health Committee met. Did that via phone. 23rd was chair, vice chair. 24th, fish board, and zoom into that one. 31st, I had a meeting with some folks from Hart, and we now, and part of our new employee, we have our new community outreach officer. Am I getting that right? Transformation guy? Okay. Officer. So just trying to keep some of those good things going. Don't want anything to delay there. As also was mentioned, 31st, SMSC inauguration, all new people. The chairman obviously was there as vice chair, but all new people in their respective roles. So it was a great time, and really hoping and looking forward to having just great relationships and communications with the Business Council. Let's see here. On the 5th, as was mentioned, Canterbury Tour. Got a nice little sheet here of what's going on. And it was interesting to get a tour from the inside versus, I go by that place 1,000 times, but not always on the inside. And to see some of the amphitheaters, I think that's going to be an amazing piece of work there. And it is much further along than when you're driving down 83 there. It looks like, it's just such a huge mountain of sand and in the backside of the amphitheater, but on the inside, I mean, the stage is taking shape and the corners, it's going to be something. So good for them for getting that moving. And the product around there, what was it, with the Omri, which is right along 16 there, I think I might move in. I'm not sure. It's 55 plus, so I've made that. The amenities in there, I'm like, why am I in my house? I know I'm in my house, but at some point when it makes sense, it's just a really nice product there. So thank you for setting that up. It was good to see that from the inside. And then, was that last night? I guess it was. Greater MSP, also a new committee assignment this year. They had their next 24. It reminded me, so Commissioner Ulrich's been our rep there for how long? Quite a while, right? Number of years?
Yep.
It reminded me of a Scale on steroids with tons of cash with a Minneapolis flavor.
At the Guthrie, right?
At the Guthrie. So had to pull up my best sport coat and didn't need a tie, of course, but it was a getting my feet wet with those folks. A lot of really big, hairy, audacious goals. Is that what they call them? We'll leave it at that. And I have a meeting with the staff next week, just as a way of being oriented to what they want to accomplish. And then this morning, new employee, which we had a bunch. That completes my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Beer. Commissioner Ulrich.
I have to tell you, Commissioner Beer, that Commissioner Wolf and I think, always felt like little minnows or little fish amongst the big fish when we rub shoulders with the greater MSP folks. It's an opportunity to really meet some high-powered leaders in the metro area. So it's quite an opportunity. Okay, on the 16th, I attended the board workshop and the Spirit of Scott employee event. 17th, I attended the TAB. There's lots of new members, probably, 8 at least. One of the most important new members is our new metro area MnDOT person, Connie. I'm going to struggle with his name, Sabajim. But Connie has been around for a long time. He was around with MnDOT and on the TAB when we were successful in getting the stoplights removed on 494, 169. He was an absolute key player in that. To have him back, it's like having a good friend come back. You know, I think good things will happen. You know, in some areas, we would say, hey, to MnDOT, if we bring money to a project, if we kick in some substantial money, are you interested? Well, most recently, that didn't seem to pique any interest, you know, that we would be willing to kick in money to a project. And whereas in prior areas, that was really key, you know, to some of our projects. If we provided some substantial contribution that usually got a project going or got a project done. But so I think good things with Connie, we can look forward to that. We talked about safety performance targets. We do that, it seems like yearly, and it's towards 0 deaths, obviously, and they're really good about talking about targets. It's less that I hear reports on what strategies are they going to employ to reach those targets. And so I'm going to kind of press on that topic with Connie to see if we can't get some firm strategies. I remember one time in the TAB solicitation, they had a package MnDOT did of things like those wire fences that go between roadways, you know, that would catch a car if they cross over, you know, a lot of different kinds of safety projects that they put forward to help with the 0 deaths target. So I'm gonna push on that one. 22nd scale service delivery, MBTA Management Committee, that was Luther Winter's performance review, election of officers, Fish Executive Committee the same day, and the AMC Met Council Advisory Committee. All these committees, AMC or the Collier County Met Council Governance Committees, are now done. They're not meeting anymore. It's unfortunate that the task force didn't come to any consensus. They forwarded all six proposals, and the likelihood of the legislature doing something seems less. The optimism is, at least from me, I was very optimistic something would happen. I'm very less optimistic, and I think most Collier County type folks are not as optimistic as they were with the fact that they didn't reach any kind of consensus. The 24th, we had an RTF meeting, and RTF is now doing a sort of a Lego block type, blocking out what needs to be at the training center, what for the future, and doing a cost analysis. They'll probably be coming to Scale to ask for a little bit of financial help to do this cost analysis of this Lego blocking process. Liam, the police chief, what is his last name? Dugan, from Prior Lake, is one of the lead people that's helping with some of this Lego blocking. He's quite an expert in training, and all the facilities that we toured, he had been at and trained people at. So it's a topic that he's well familiar with. We've affirmed to the RTF people that moving to another location and the cost of doing so makes it pretty much a non-starter to do that. Not everybody was very happy to hear that, but I affirmed that with the group. 25th, the Savage Rep meeting. 29th, another Collier County governance meeting. 30th, I attended a Carver County transit workshop. When I met Commissioner Workman, I said, I'm just here to spread the love.
Nice. Nice.
And I listened to their topic, and they're considering evening and weekend service like we've had for many years, plus also some loop service in their communities to get seniors and others to shopping or grocery shopping, things like that. What we'll be looking at is potentially making the evening weekend service that they have with ours seamless between the two counties.
Nice.
That'll be something to consider. 31st, the SMSC Leadership Council inauguration, MVTA board meeting, Luther performance review, election of officers was carried out that meeting. The first meeting with Leslie Vermillion. The Scott County Transportation Committee met. We talked about future agendas and the goals of that committee. Talked about mobility management and the Renaissance Festival report. The second, the Scale Executive Committee, we talked about urban-rural development and some of the issues going on there, and that seems to me to be kind of a long debate and a long working through the issue of how do townships develop, how do they, with the comp plan and the cities and the annexation agreements, all that is a very complex issue, but I can see from the township perspective, they're trying to survive in the era of increasing costs, everything costs more, and they're probably saying, what can we do to survive and cover our costs? And so they want to see some development probably, and so this is a tough issue to work through, but I don't think it's a quick and easy one, obviously. Let's see, lost track here. The tech team, the future of the tech team, and then I gave an RTF report at the Executive Committee of the Met Council. Unique project scoring committee kickoff. I don't know how I allowed myself to be signed up for that, but I've got to score 6 unique projects in about the next 10 days. It's like, wow, why did I do this? Why did I sign up for that? But anyway, I'm going to do it. The 5th SDA board meeting. Met Council members were there, quite a few. We talked about our legislative package. I'm pushing for microtransit to be a separate category, funding category in the regional solicitation process. So I pushed it there, and I pushed it at some of the meetings I'm with Tab and stuff. But I think that's a way to get some funding for that unique initiative that's growing across the entire metro area, microtransit. And so I'm trying to make sure that gets funded well. A mobility management board meeting. We talked about transit link expansion that I already mentioned. There's going to be a Hopscotch video that's being done, and then we talked about veteran services. That's into my report.
Thank you, Commissioner. And hello to our friends from Metropolitan Mosquito Control District. We're just going to finish up our last board report here, and then we'll go back to your agenda item. For my report, like everybody else, on January 16th, I attended the workshop after the board meeting on strategic planning and the Spirit of Scott gathering. Later that day, on January 16th, I had CAP Finance Committee meeting. With some of these additional dollars and additional partnering with the county, it's just really important that the CAP agencies' capabilities are in order, that we're doing things with them, and that they're able to hire. With this labor market, it's been hard, so really putting some more work into making sure they're ready for partnering with us. On January 17th, I attended the Together We Can Protective Factors training. It was interesting to see and be part of that training that a lot of our staff were taking, that really provides the building blocks of our FRC work, trying to help families become more resilient, get the things they need, and do better, not need so much support. So it was a good training to attend. January 18th, I also attended the SHAC Public Health webinar on housing. January 18th, I attended the MELSA Board of Trustees meeting in Commissioner Brennan's place. Commissioner Brennan is our representative on the Board of Trustees, but for the next couple of months, I will remain on their transition committee, looking for a new executive director and seeing how that will work. So we'll have some dual MELSA things over the next few months. January 19th was the AMC Board of Directors meeting. Also, January 19th was the State Community Supervision Advisory Council, looking at the additional funding from the legislature and the workload study. January 23rd was the Chair-Vice Chair meeting. Also on January 23rd was the Scott County Mental Health Local Advisory Council meeting. January 24th, Administrator Vermillion and I met with the mayor and city administrator of New Prague, talking about the issues there. They thanked us very much for our assistance with their levy certification issue that arose earlier. Also talked a little bit they've been working quite closely with Representative Craig on the post office issue. So lots of things going on in New Prague. Also, so on January 24th, I also had the NACO Human Services and Education Committee monthly meeting. January 25th, along with Commissioner Brennan, I attended the Shakopee Chamber of Commerce annual meeting at Canterbury. Again, hearing some of what's going on there. I would like the behind-the-scenes tour that you guys got, too. It sounds very interesting. January 25th, I met with Aaron Lewis to discuss our county advisory councils and boards. Also on January 25th, I attended the Jordan Commercial Club meeting. Their speaker that night was a gentleman from Buckingham Companies. So just really interesting that all kinds of community groups are understanding what a big issue solid waste is and talking about that. As we're going to have probably a couple hours talking about that later today. On January 26th, I had a nice meeting with Jordan City Council member Jeremy Gable. We happened to meet at McDonald's in Jordan, so afterwards I was treated to meeting with lots of constituents there, including Commissioner Wolfstad, who frequents McDonald's early in the morning. January 29th was the Transportation Alliance board meeting. Really happy that Connie's moved on to Met Council, but we'll miss him from that board. January 31st, I also attended the SMSC Business Council inauguration. February 1st, attended the Legislative Forum in Winona. I have my Winona County pen right here. It was the one I could find this morning, so that's good. February 2nd, Scale Exec. Thank you, Commissioner Ulrich, for the report on that. February 6th, today was new employee orientation. Just a couple of comment. Commissioner Brennan mentioned the increased library hours that'll go into effect. I just think that was a really good job done by our staff to figure out how we can get some more night and weekend hours. And I've already heard several comments from folks in anticipation of those hours. So I think it'll be very appreciated. So we will not move on to county administrator update until after our presentation from our Metropolitan Mosquito Control friends. Welcome. I hope they weren't too hard on you in Carver County. So we're glad you're here. Looking forward to meeting the new executive director. So you're gonna start us off? Well, thank you.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I've got a question before they even start.
Yes.
This will provide a little leeway of getting the presentation set up. So in the age of AI, Chat GBT, Russian bots and whatever else, is it true what I saw on the internet the other day that a deer tick was located? Is that true?
My dog had two. Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Oh, they're out.
And that was officially found in Dakota County. Is that right?
Oh, that's
Nice. Nice. But no mosquitoes. No mosquitoes, but a deer tick. Yay. Nice. Nicely done.
So just for the record, we're moving on to agenda item number 9, to receive information from the Metropolitan Mosquito Control District. And I just want you to know, we did have a bigger crowd for the earlier parts of the meeting. So unfortunately, yeah, they're missing your presentation. So welcome, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Commission members, and thank you for your patience as we were at Carver County. But very happy to be with you this morning. My name is Daniel Huff. I'm the new Executive Director for the Mosquito Control District. And Madam Chair, I heard you mention SHAC. I spent the last 4 years as the Assistant Commissioner with MDH. But very happy to be at Mosquito Control. Commissioner Wolf was part of my interview panel as the hiring committee. So it's really his fault if things go wrong from here on. But thank you for the opportunity to present to you today. I want to just introduce my colleagues. Alex Carlson, he is our Manager of Public Affairs. He'll be giving the presentation today. And then Casey Herman, he is the Regional Operations Manager for our Jordan office, which serves Scott County. So thank you for the warm welcome, and I'll, with your permission, Madam Chair, turn it over to Alex here.
Please do. Thank you. Welcome to your position, and good to see you and meet you, and good to see you again, Alex.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. And yes, it might feel like spring, but we still have some time before the mosquitoes emerge. Hopefully, we're monitoring though to see what's out there. And we did post on our Facebook that we started finding deer ticks yesterday, and we expect them to be out throughout the week. And I'll have more on that coming up. But right now, I'm going to review what we're going to cover today. We're going to go over the services that we provide, just as a good reminder for you and for anybody who might be tuning in. And then just talk about mosquitoes in Minnesota, overview our 2023 season, and look ahead to 2024. So just an overview of the district. We've been around since 1958, established by state statute, and our governance is by elected county commissioners. So for 2024, it'll be Commissioner Wolf and Commissioner Beer, who serve on the MMCD Commission. So we thank them for their service. Our service area is about 2,900 square miles, and over 3 million people live in our service area. And we're the land of 10,000 lakes and even more ponds and swamps and marshes. And so we have over 80,000 wetland habitats that we have to monitor, and we have been monitoring each and every one throughout the district. The services that we provide are comprehensive mosquito control. We do mosquito-borne disease suppression. We consider public health an important part of our mission. We do tick-borne disease surveillance. We also provide public education about mosquitoes and mosquito and tick-borne diseases to make sure that people are taking safety precautions. We also, in the early 90s, added black fly control, which are the biting gnats that tend to be more active in the early spring, but they develop in rivers and streams. So that's part of our services as well. So mosquitoes, it's February and we're talking about mosquitoes, but this is important for people to know to understand what mosquito control does. So we have over 3,000 species worldwide. 52 are established here in Minnesota, meaning they survive our cold winters when we do have cold winters, and they come back year over year. Only about half of that 52 are what we consider a human health concern, meaning they're human biting or they can carry diseases that can end up in the human population. So about half the species that we have exclusively feed on frogs or birds or other non-mammal species. But we do have about 20 or so that we're concerned about because they exclusively or primarily feed on people or they carry diseases. Mosquito life cycle looks like this visual up here, where the mosquitoes, they lay their eggs either in a raft directly on standing water or as individual eggs on moist soil on the edge of a wetland. And then they wait for the rain to trigger that eggs hatch. And then the eggs become larvae, and the larvae will survive for about 4 to 6 days, and then they become pupa for about 1 to 2 days, and then they come out of the water after about a week. So usually when you are tracking the weather in the summer, if we get a big inch or more of rain, about a week after that is when we see those mosquitoes coming out of the water that hatch from that. And then the adult mosquitoes can survive for up to a couple months. Most of them last about a month. Some species can last a little bit longer than that. Mosquito habitat, this is where they develop. This is where the eggs are laid and the larva develops. So there's permanent water sources, those ponds and swamps that are going to be holding water even in drier years. Then we have the floodwater sites that tend to be dry unless there's significant rain, when they're designed to flood up and keep the water away from homes and businesses. And then we also create a lot of mosquito habitat with our habits, our behavior. We leave stuff out in our yard that carries standing water, or waste tires, or anything that can hold water can become mosquito habitat. So it's just an important educational initiative to remind people anything that holds water can become mosquito habitat. So dump out your buckets, make sure you refresh the water in bird baths, fill tree holes, get rid of those tires, because tires can become great habitat for mosquitoes. And then we do a lot of work with catch basins, the picture on the top right there, because those can hold stagnant water, especially in drier years when the rain doesn't flush them out as much, and they become very active sites for mosquito larvae. When we talk about mosquito-borne disease, the main one that we're concerned about is West Nile virus. It's the primary mosquito-borne disease that we have in Minnesota. It's a disease carried by birds, so birds are the vertebrate hosts. Most birds are unaffected by the disease, but certain corvids, ravens, blue jays, and crows will get sick and often die from West Nile virus. So sometimes we'll get calls about dead crows or dead blue jays, and there's no clear other cause. It could be a sign that West Nile is starting to pop up in an area, so we'll send out staff to investigate that. We also test mosquitoes on site in our St. Paul entomology lab for West Nile virus. Humans and horses are considered dead-end hosts. We don't spread West Nile among ourselves. We can only get it from the bite of an infected mosquito. Last year, throughout the entire state, there were 27 cases of West Nile virus and 1 death. And the map there kind of shows where the activity was. There was a human case in Scott County. Pretty much every district in the metro had at least a human case. And we actually set a record for the number of pools collected that tested positive, just the percentage of pools that tested positive for West Nile. Part of that was just the overall population of mosquitoes was down last year, so fewer samples to collect means more of them tested positive, but also the types of mosquitoes that carry West Nile do thrive in drought years. So they're very active even when there's not a lot of the more nuisance, annoyance-based mosquitoes out and about. So the lesson is just, it's a good reminder to people to still take precautions. Even if you're not getting bitten up, you still put on bug spray when you're out in those evening hours or during mosquito activity periods, just because there are mosquitoes out there that could potentially make you sick. Other diseases that we're monitoring as well, Jamestown Canyon virus, spread by spring mosquitoes. Lacrosse encephalitis is a disease that impacts young children primarily, and that's found in tree hole mosquitoes, or a species that also develops in waste tires. Eastern equine encephalitis, it's a rare disease. There has not been a human case in Minnesota, but there have been horse cases, and it's got a very high mortality rate, so it's one that we're definitely monitoring. And then dog heartworm, it's just a good reminder that summer is the time that your dog is most susceptible to heartworm because that is a mosquito-borne disease. So that's when you really got to take those precautions. At MMCD, we practice integrated pest management, which is basically our way of saying that we're going to make sure that any mosquito control decisions that we make are driven by data, driven by surveillance, and driven by science. So we have a big base of support from our commissioners and various groups that support MMCD, mainly our technical advisory board, which is made up of scientists from DNR, Department of Agriculture, Department of Health, various other organizations, some scientists that review our operations every year and provide recommendations going forward. So our TAB meeting is actually next Wednesday, where we're going to be presenting our annual report to them. We publish our reports on our website as well, if you're interested in some really sophisticated data. It goes back many, many years. It's kind of cool if you're into tables and stuff like that. But basically, the bottom line is we make sure that science drives our mission. And it all starts with good surveillance. Good chances if you see an MMCD truck in your neighborhood that they're out doing surveillance. We spend a lot of our time doing wetland surveillance, where field staff put on the waders and they go out into the pond. And they use those long-handled dippers to try to get a count of how much larva is active, and then also send those samples back to the lab to identify them by species. And the lab will determine if they're a human-biting species. And if they're not a human-biting species, then we won't treat for them. We also do adult surveillance, where we set up traps, about 200 traps throughout the district every Monday night from about mid-May through the end of September. And we can get a snapshot of the mosquito population that given week. And we publish these on our website, and I'll show you those in a second. We send our samples back to our lab in St. Paul, where they, as I said, identify them by species. So we have several full-time entomologists who work in our lab, along with the support staff of lab technicians that come through the summer months and help look under microscopes and identify the different larval samples and adult mosquito samples to determine which species are the most active, because that really helps inform our decisions about what control we're going to do. And we do test for West Nile on site in St. Paul, so we can be ahead of potential disease outbreaks by responding when we know the disease activity is out there. This is what 2023 looked like. The red line is 2023. The purple line is the 10-year average. And then we put the green line 2020 just to show what a typical year normally looks like. But the past couple of years have been defined by snowy winters and dry summers. So we've had a big surge of mosquitoes right at the beginning of the year when the snow melts and leaves a lot of standing water, and the rivers tend to be high and produce a lot of standing water. The mosquitoes surge, and then it just dries out, and they gradually decline until late July and August, when there's very few around. Whereas 2020, the green line, usually we see spikes and peaks and valleys based on the rain activities. We get a big rain event, we see a big spike, and then they gradually decline after that. This is also a good graph if you're planning your camping trip. You're going to get less eaten up by mosquitoes in August than you will in early June, so just for your reference. And then these are the maps that we put out there every Monday, or we collect the data every Monday, and then we usually put out the maps a couple days after that. But each pinpoint is where there is a trap set up, and then the data there shows how many mosquitoes per trap. So the map on the left is early June. You can see there's a lot of red, meaning over 1,000, over 500 mosquitoes. And then on the right is early August, where they essentially went away. It was a very unusual year, but that has been the trend for the past couple of years. Just fewer mosquitoes as the summer goes on and the rain does not come. Once we determine what's out there, we have to determine how to control them. We consider ourselves a larval control agency. Our main focus is controlling them when they're in the wetlands, in the water. And there's a couple reasons for that. One, it's effective because of our geographic size. We have such a wide geographic area. We can do widespread larval control and make a really big impact. Versus if we just served Scott County, we would have mosquitoes flying in from the neighboring counties, and it wouldn't be as effective. But because we serve all of the counties in the metro, that can be really effective. It's also easier to target them when they're in a breeding site versus when they're adult mosquitoes flying all over the place. And the materials that we use are the safest. The larval control materials, BTI is the main active ingredient. It's a naturally occurring soil bacterium that only impacts mosquito larvae and a couple other biting fly larvae, but doesn't impact beneficial insects like pollinators and other insects that are out and about. So that's why we really focus on larval control. The 2023 season brought another year of drought. That's just been kind of the story the past couple of years, is dry summers. And one of the impacts of a dry summer is mosquito populations tend to decline as the summer goes on. We did see a big surge in the early spring because we had almost record snowfall in the Twin Cities last winter. So if you're looking ahead to this year, I mean, we're not seeing very much snow this year, so that could mean less of a spike in the early spring. There were 13 cases of West Nile in the district, 1 case of La Crosse encephalitis. Deer ticks were abundant. They were once again collected in every county. And then average black flies per sweep went up slightly from the year before, but below the 15-year average. And one of the consequences of the snowfall was that we had high rivers, and the rivers are what produced the black flies. And so we did see a bit of a surge then. And then the table on the bottom just shows kind of the larval control and adult control year over year. We have been seeing less adult control, even in more wet years, just because we're trying to focus on larval control. Here's a look at Scott County year over year. So similar number of larval treatments because similar weather, 2022 versus 2023. We removed a bit more tires, did some more catch basin treatments. Like we said, in dry years, catch basin treatments are extremely important because that's where mosquitoes can be developing. And then we did see a little bit of an increase in calls last year. So more people were calling to report high mosquito activity than previous years. Our budget is set by our commission, and our levy is set by the commission, and then it's proportioned by population. So you can just look at the year-over-year changes. Scott County and what their portion is there in the third column or third row. Looking ahead to 2024, we're going to continue to expand. We're very dependent on the weather. So if we have another dry year, there's only so much expansion that we can do when we're responding to what the activity is. But we can always expand our surveillance and increase areas that we're going to when we send our people out to do larval surveillance. We can adjust based on population changes and other factors. We're also going to continue to expand our drone program. It's something I've mentioned the past couple of years, but we've been adding a drone every single year that can do treatments. So this year we'll be doing drones in our north, which is Anoka County, our Plymouth facility, and our Maple Grove facility, which are primary Hennepin and northern Carver County. So we're adding drones and drone technicians and developing this program. It's a great way to conserve staff time because they can do a lot more acreage with a drone than they can do on foot when they have to get into the wetland and do the treatments. And it's also, it's just a good way to make sure that we're doing uniform distribution of the materials. We're going to continue to increase educational outreach, doing more schools and summer camps. It's a thing that we enjoy doing to spread the word about safety precautions people can take, but also just inform people about who MMCD is and what we're doing. And then also create more opportunities for our staff to learn from the industry and learn from other mosquito control organizations. We always get asked, what's the prediction for 2024? And predicting mosquitoes is like predicting the weather. It's only so reliable. So we do our best to provide some models to kind of look at the year ahead. According to the National Weather Service, they're not predicting below or above average precipitation in the months of June, July, and August. We don't know exactly what that's going to entail. Last year we were below average. That's kind of been the trend, is drier summers, but it could see a little bit more average precipitation this year. The one model that we do have some accuracy about is the cattail mosquito, which is a unique species that overwinters as larvae, and they come out once per year, usually at the end of June, early July. And they're usually responsible in the 10-year average, that big spike in July. That's mainly because of cattail mosquitoes coming out. But we can look at the past couple of years and our surveillance and the weather and make a prediction that they're gonna stay low again this year. So we're probably not gonna see a big cattail emergence this July, which means there might not be as many mosquitoes for the 4th of July as we see in average years. But again, it's very dependent on rain. If we get a ton of rain the week before, we could see some different species of mosquitoes active that time. And then the lack of snow this winter just means we might not see as big of a spring surge this year as we have in the past years. I mean, mosquitoes are dependent on standing water. If there's not as much standing water around, there's going to be fewer mosquitoes. We like to promote our maps. So here's just a snapshot of one of our maps. You can pull this up on our website. Anybody can go to mmcd.org, type in your address or any location and zoom in and look at all the wetlands that we're monitoring. As I mentioned, there's over 80,000, and you can click on them, zoom in, and you can see, what type of site it is, when's the last time that we were there, what surveillance we did, what was found, and what treatment was done, and if a treatment was done. So sometimes people are curious, did they go to the pond in my neighborhood? You can pull it up and see. We may have stopped by when you were at work or something like that. And it's also good for people to know not every pond produces mosquitoes. So you can see, based on our dip counts, some areas do, some areas don't. So we kind of categorize by the floodwater rank what each site produces. People can sign up for email alerts to get notified when our activity is going to begin, when we're doing adult mosquito treatments. So we'll notify at least 24 hours in advance if we're going to come out and do an adult mosquito treatments in an area. And then we also post our helicopter activity as well. So you can know if helicopters are going to be in your city by signing up for alerts. We do a lot of public outreach, as I mentioned, so we like to do events in the summer. We go to parades, we do the Scott County Fair, we do other events. We're going to be at the Celebrate Jordan event in a couple of weeks, and it's just a good way for us to notify the public about who MMCD is and what we're doing. And there's our mascot. Her name is Victoria. She likes to make appearances throughout the summer, so you may see her flying around at parades and other events and stuff like that. And with that, I'll open it up for questions.
Thank you very much, Alex. Commissioner Ulrich has a question.
It's almost a personal question, but if outside of the metro area, if a resident wanted to spray a fogger, does that kill every bug? I mean, I have never done a fogger because I didn't want to kill the dragonflies when I kill mosquitoes. Are foggers safe for other things, or are they?
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioner Ulrich. It depends on the exact product that you're using, but most adult control for mosquitoes is broad spectrum, so it can have negative impacts on other insects. But the label usually will tell you time of day to do the application to make it the less likely that you'll impact, dragonflies, which are more active in the daytime. If you do a fogging in the dusk evening hours, you're less likely to impact dragonflies and bees and insects that are active during the day. So we always just say the label is the law. You follow the label, and they usually have the best recommendations for the time of day and the droplet size to be the most beneficial to the target species without harming non-target species.
Thank you.
Other comments or questions? Go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to kind of double down on the maps, because I always talk about that because they are very specific. So if anyone has any questions whatsoever, this is a great resource. So it's a reminder for me in spring, which I guess we are in spring, to make sure that I forward that out to people. And then the other question or comment is, Carver County probably said the same thing. They're probably similar, that we have a lot of township roads. What that means, we have a lot of township ditches. Mm-hmm. And where I'm going with this is, how many tires did you guys?
Quite a few.
A lot, a couple thousand. So tell me again, how does a local resident call Alex and say, hey, got some tires? Is it one tire? You have 2,000 tires?
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Beer. Yeah, we do free tire recycling, so it's a good resource. They can call our front desk, or they can go to our website and fill out a form where you put in your address, specify the number of tires. If it's a extremely high quantity, we recommend you call us, just because we take those on a case-by-case basis. But most people have under 50, and so we're happy to come and pick those up during our season when we have seasonal staff. So it's usually April through early October, end of September.
This is a great service. That I don't think
It is wonderful.
People have one or two, or 50. He's got 49, I think. But hey, did I hear the word free?
You did.
Free
Yes.
recycling.
Free for district residents.
Keep 'em out of the ditches.
Yep.
Thank you.
Good comment. Thank you, Commissioner Ulrich.
Yeah, one additional. Let's say a resident goes on your map and they see a water retention pond that isn't circled in orange on your map. Can they request or contact in any way?
Thank you, Commissioner Ulrich. Absolutely, yes. We'd like to know that stuff. I mean, one of the things we do in the winter is our field staff will go out and map their area. So they check to see any new standing water develops. Sometimes, cities are doing construction projects that redirect water. Usually we're in communication with cities, but sometimes we discover things. But if people find things that aren't mapped, please contact us, and we'll send field staff out to make sure that gets added to our maps.
Thank you. Good question. Anything further? Well, thank you so much for being here today. Great to meet you,
Thank you.
Mr. Huff. we're here, we're gonna, I went on, I'm like, am I following them on my social media so I can share things? So it was a good reminder to make sure I was, because you're right, we do want to share these resources. We're all paying for them, let's share them and take advantage of all the great things you're offering. So appreciate it. We'll see you next year, I guess.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, all right, have a good day. Thank you. We'll move on to item number 11 on the agenda, County Administrator Update.
Madam Chair, I just wanted to update you that we had Patty and I had a great meeting with Bo Carlson, the Director of Three Rivers, yesterday on the use of the landing. And they have stopped doing some of the programming there, but it is still open to the public for biking through, for walking through. They've actually got some additional trails to the north than just the main trail through the village there. And that their board in January did reaffirm that they want to continue to have that open to the public and the access to the river that is so important. And probably would like to look at working with the Historical Society and the county and the city on having a couple, like 3 or 4 times a year, main attractions that would bring people in there. So I think there's some work to do. It was a very positive meeting on their maintenance and wanting to keep the landing active and available to the public. The other thing I just wanted to add was we also talked about, and we'll get this on your calendar, but on May 21st, a ribbon cutting for Spring Lake Park. That's going to be a big deal when that opens there off County Highway 12. And then just a reminder to the public that February 19th, most of the county buildings will be closed in honor of the President's holiday.
Wonderful, thank you. Any questions or comments for our county administrator? All right. County attorney, do we need to recess for attorney-client meeting?
Excuse me. We do not. I'll just comment to Commissioner Ulrich. We also hunt between Cook and Orr. We're up there for 4 days and saw 0 deer.
This weekend saw, I think, 8 deer in Spring Lake Regional Park, so they're here. Yeah. So, all right, following this meeting, we will be meeting in a workshop setting to receive information on the anaerobic digester proposal on our advisory committees. We're going to get a quarterly ERP update and an update on the SMSC trust application. So if there's nothing else to come
Motion
before
to
us,
adjourn.
all right. It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Thank